Join the Wide Whale team May 9th at 3 p.m. Eastern for part 1 of our 3-part virtual event series, Voice of the Resident, where we will look at the tour and move-in lifecycle stages. We've built a data set of 400,000 Google reviews from residents of hundreds of top multifamily groups, including the NMHC Top 50. Using AI and topic sentiment analysis, get a unique perspective on resident preferences. Go to widewhale.com/data to sign up or find it on the revised community. That's widewhale.com/data.
Welcome to Leading Your Culture, brought to you by the Multifamily Media Network. I'm your host, Bill Nye. While serving the United States Air Force, I was selected to attend the U.S. Air Force Leadership School, which is still the foundation for many of my leadership beliefs. That experience set me on a course for a successful career in business, consulting, mentoring, training, and speaking. In this series, my guests will come from many disciplines to discuss the most serious and at times not so serious topics on leadership and culture. Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I say good morning. You may be actually watching this podcast in the middle of the night, so not sure when you're going to watch, but we're recording this in the morning, so I guess good morning is apropos. I'm Bill Nye, your host of the podcast Leading Your Culture with Bill Nye, and excited for our guest today because this is going a completely different direction from my previous podcast. So I have joining us this morning the Director of Marketing for Bayshore Properties, Chantelle Berger. Chantelle, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Bill. So excited. And it is
I'm excited.
I've had quite a few cups of coffee, so I'm raring to go.
Good for you. Well, I'm excited about this topic because, anybody who knows me and has been following me through the years knows that I really focus on leadership and culture. I believe that culture is the most important element in any organization. And I know there are some people out there who think it's overdone. I don't think it's overdone at all. And I think it's greatly underdone because I think culture is truly the most important part of an organization. But you're a marketing person. And as a marketing person, of course, you've worked, for property management companies. You're the director of marketing now for a management company, Bayshore, out of Crown Point, Indiana. But you've also worked for third-party vendors. And so you have a pretty good perspective. And so the reason I wanted to have you on this morning is because I'm of the belief that companies should really focus on marketing what their culture really is. But here's what I find. Here's what I see. I call it the LinkedIn lie. And the LinkedIn lie is all of this stuff promoting a company's culture, and it isn't even remotely close to what the culture really is. And maybe you agree with that. Maybe you disagree. Maybe you think that, because, when you're trying to grow your culture, it's an ongoing process. You never complete it, ever. If I live to be 100 years old, and I hope that I do, but if I live to be 100 years old, I'm never going to stop focusing on trying to grow the right culture. But there's always going to be a weed that pops up in your culture. And that's why I constantly use the term growing your culture. A lot of people say you build a culture. I say that's not true. You don't build a culture, you grow a culture. And those are fundamentally different skill sets. But why is it, or do you, I guess I should just start by saying, am I wrong here? Am I looking at this wrong? When I use the term, the LinkedIn lie?
I think you're 100% right. And you shouldn't be.
That's good.
Culture is very similar, or marketing culture should be very similar to online reputation. That's how I see it. We're putting out, when we all strive for 5-star reviews, and we're putting out, we want these 5-star reviews, but we're not necessarily, by doing that, sharing what it's really like to live at the properties or work at the properties. We're saying we want 5 stars across the board. Well, people looking from the outside in don't just want to remote experiences. They want real day in the life. And I think culture kind of goes the same way. We need to share, what is it like to really work here? And we need to do a good job of promoting that. Like, why did we choose to work here? Telling those stories. So I had a really great week I got to spend some time with our ownership at Bayshore Properties. And one of the first questions I asked Chris, one of our owners, was, how did this start? Tell me why. That for me, I felt such a different feeling knowing why this started and understanding how we are today. And I think that the first part of culture is sharing those stories internally and externally. Why are we here? What's our purpose? And living through to that. So finding that right balance to say, maybe we don't want to say we're going to have 5-star experiences across the board, because we're going to miss that sometimes, but we need to figure out the best way to share our stories and share the why outwardly about why are we doing it? What is our goal? And what are we investing in our people? Because they're investing in us.
So are you suggesting that companies should just be honest about their dirty laundry?
No, I mean, not necessarily. Okay, so
Okay.
I recently joined Bayshore Properties.
Uh-huh.
And part of the reason, well, 100%, no, 90% of the reason I joined here is because my hiring manager was honest about the opportunities that we had here to come on board, right? So sharing dirty laundry is one thing. We don't want to put everything out there, but
Sure.
opportunities are exciting. People join companies because they want to make change, right? A lot of the time,
Right.
I can make an impact. I want to impact an organization. I want to impact people. And knowing that up front made me want to be here. And I think that the same carries through with so much. A property manager will make a change saying, I want to come to this property because I know I can increase occupancy. I know I can get our NOI, I can get this favorable. I know I can do these things. So understanding up front that there's some opportunity there and being transparent. And I know you've said that a lot in a lot of your podcasts about culture, but being transparent is great. And that's what people want. This LinkedIn lie, if we're saying, you're coming to an A+ property and you're not, or there's not challenges, you won't retain your employees. That's not culture. You're going to get people that have unrealistic expectations. They're coming in feeling lied to, and they're going to leave. So I think that dirty laundry is different than authenticity. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Listen, that makes perfect sense. Um, Swift Bunny, who does employee engagement surveys. I had a conversation with the folks at Swift Bunny about a year ago, and they talked about how alarming it was to discover the number of new hires who leave in less than 90 days, and that they were seeing that number on the rise, that it was getting worse and worse and worse. To me, it's easy to, as an employer, it's easy to look at it and say, well, they just don't have any integrity. People just, they don't honor their commitments, and put it all back on them. But the truth of the matter is, at least in my opinion, that a big percentage of that is that they get in with a certain expectation, find that they've been lied to, that it's not how it really is. Listen, the work is the work, and it's hard. And there's nothing I can do. Turning an apartment is an awful job, and sometimes they're just nasty, if we're being honest. There's nothing I can do to make that job easier and cleaner or less dirty. But I think there's a lot that leaders can do to make people feel appreciated and know that leadership understands that the job is hard, and that sometimes it even feels a little thankless, right?
mm-hmm.
And so what I'm hearing you're saying is, no, you don't want to air your dirty laundry and just, show the what's underneath the bed. But at the same time, just be honest that, hey, this is who we're trying to be. Aspirational, right? This is who we're trying to be. And we're not always delivering on that. We're not always there. So, it's interesting because when you look at LinkedIn and you see like group photos, it's Employee Appreciation Day, it's somebody's birthday, somebody's celebrating 10 years with the company. And you look at that and you read the posts, and it certainly makes it look like, wow, that's a great place to work, because, we don't do that where I work. And, it's all positive. It's all positive. How does somebody, from a marketing standpoint, how does somebody, portray that, hey, listen, yeah, sure, we're working on these things and we want to demonstrate that we are trying to grow. Listen, here's an example, because I talk about growing your culture, not to cut myself off, but, I recently posted on Facebook pictures of my vegetable garden. Well, guess what I did right before I took those pictures? I went through my vegetable garden with my garden hoe, and I turned up the soil, and not to get it ready for a picture. It just needed to be done. and removed all the weeds. And then I was looking at it like, wow, I should take a picture. And then I took a picture and then I posted it. It would lead one to believe that there's not a weed growing anywhere in my garden. That picture was taken 3 days ago. I walked out this morning, looked at my vegetable garden. Guess what I found? A bunch of weeds growing, right? And so I think that's the reality to. So how does a company say, "Hey, we're trying not to grow weeds in our culture, but we have some."
Mm-hmm. I think that that's great. And in an age of social media, we all see that every day. We see everything sparkling and perfect with influencers and people posting those pictures of their beautiful garden. I post pictures of my beautifully decorated house when I know that it looks like chaos most days. And we are in an age of people want that, and it's not realistic. What I think, again, people really want authenticity. And I think that instead of talking about the sparkly shiny, I think sharing successes with people, sharing individual successes. So if we're saying this property manager on LinkedIn overcame, we started at 76%, and this property manager was able to do this to overcome it. Sharing those kind of experiences that are real, and we're talking about that accomplishment, but where they started, I think that that's a lot different. I think that sharing people, we don't work for companies. That's what culture is, right? We work for companies, but we work for people. So I think celebrating more people's successes and people accomplishments on LinkedIn than necessarily the shiny, beautiful. Let's talk about real experiences and real people. And I think a great way to promote culture is having people tell, I had a lot of that this week too, but people tell their stories of how they got where they're at. I think that companies, I mentioned investing in people, but I think that promoting culture and sharing outwardly is, where did I start and where am I now? What did my company invest in me? Where did I come from, and how much room is there for growth? And I think that it may not be rainbows and butterflies, but talking about how we're investing in our people. And again, aspirational, what do we look to do? How are we growing? At Bayshore, we are having a leasing boot camp this week, and it's a 2-day boot camp. We're bringing every leasing professional from the company into our corporate office in Crown Point. And we know that we have opportunity. This opportunity, I've been here just about a month, and I've said the word opportunity a lot of times. But that's so great. We know we have opportunity. We know we've missed the mark before. It gives us a chance to look back and go back to basics and say, what do we need going forward? So I think also promoting that we are doing these things because we're not just aspirational, we're doing it and we're following through. We know we have opportunity, and this is what we're doing. And so sharing, when we post on LinkedIn, because I know we will, sharing, we have this many leasing team members in our corporate office for the first time, and we are inviting them into the office to have this leasing boot camp that we've never done before. That's admitting we failed in the past, right? But it is saying this is what we're doing going forward, and then talk about this is step 1, and step 2 is we're going to have this technology, understanding we missed the ball and we missed the mark in the past, but we're getting there, and we care about our people, and that's why we're doing it. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's interesting when I talk to people about culture, and one of the questions I like to ask is, how do you define culture? Not what is your culture, but how do you define culture? And there's a lot of similarities, but I've always been very clear that culture is defined in 3 ways. It's what you expect, it's what you will and will not tolerate, and it's how you treat one another. And, in that, I remember years ago, I posted something on social media because we were going through a hiring process. And I simply said, if you want to work for a company that has high expectations and is going to, expect you to perform and be at your best day after day after day, but be recognized when you do, and when you meet and exceed those expectations, then this is the right place for you. I was very clear to say, don't apply for a job in our company if you're not willing to roll up your sleeves and work really hard, because we're going to expect you to work really hard. And I talked a little bit in there about, what we will and will not tolerate. Basically, what I was saying is, don't apply for this job because you think it's going to be easy. Apply for this job because you think it's going to be rewarding. And that's a big difference. And there's certainly people out there who are looking for the easy, but the truth of the matter is there's nothing in life is easy, right? And so I think it's important that companies, are honest about that. So I personally think that marketing, promoting, sort of tooting your own horn from a cultural standpoint is important. I think it's something that companies should do, and I think they should do more often, because every company has a culture. Every organization has a culture. You and your son Mason, your home has a culture, right? And you're growing something in your home, and you have expectations for your son, right? And there are things you'll tolerate, and there are things you won't tolerate, and then there's an understanding of how you treat one another. That's a culture. That's exactly what a culture is. And so I think there needs to be more promoting with that mindset, than when people decide to post something, or promote something that's going on, or try to recruit people into their organization, that they're focusing on the true definition of what a culture is, so that they can in fact be more honest. Because the truth of the matter is, you know every, because every company has their culture, it's not for everyone. And I think it's important on both ends that both parties understand exactly what it is, and is it for you, and are you for us?
Two things. One, I'll start by saying that says a lot about your leadership and our culture, that I have known you for about 4 weeks, and you remembered my son's name. So thank you. That says a lot
You're, you're welcome.
about you.
This episode is brought to you by Wide Whale, the reputation partner for BH, Avenue 5, Trilogy, and more. Join Wide Whale on May 9th at 3 p.m. Eastern for event number 1 in our 3-part virtual event series, Voice of the Resident. We will be looking at in-depth topic and sentiment analysis from 400,000 Google reviews from residents of the largest multifamily groups, including the NMHC Top 50. Throughout the series, we will report on resident preferences and trends found in reviews by life cycle stage, retention, residency, and for our first event, tour and move-in. You'll leave with insights to optimize your operations, creating better resident experiences and driving better reviews. Put your dollars to work in the right places. Hear it directly from the source, the words of 400,000 residents. Go to widewhale.com/data to sign up, or find it on the revised community in virtual events. Attend live or watch on demand. That's widewhale.com/data.
But yes, I 100% agree. And that goes back to some of the core values, and not just setting these core values, but what's our mission? What's our objective? And I worked for a company a few years back, and we had these, I can't remember all of them, so I apologize for that. But my top two favorite were: we have fun, and we are open and honest. And when I tell you we lived and breathed this, we would celebrate something, and we would say, because we have fun, and we would put it in Slack or Teams. And that was, we lived it. We were proud of the fact that we had fun, and we were proud of the fact that we were open and honest. So we were able to have difficult conversations and say, but we're open and honest. And this is why, and we live and breathe this. And I think that, yes, setting those expectations, and having, this is our expectation, and this is one of our core values, and living and breathing that and bringing that into the conversations, whether it's internal with our employees or with our residents, or external in the way we market the company. So again, back to that value, that we are open and honest. If I'm sharing on LinkedIn something that is, we're open and honest, and that's why we tackled this situation that way. But it goes back to our core values. So again, it's not just spilling the beans or putting everything out there, but who are we? And yes, we're going to work really hard. We're going to have fun too. We're going to work really hard, and this is not for the people that just want the easy ride. I hear the easy ride thing a lot. All right, I feel that. I talk to a lot of people on site who are like, I want to be corporate. They think that's the easy ride, right? They think like, I'm going to get off site. What's your goal? To get off site. Well, okay, but that's not the easy ride. A lot of the time, this is more demanding, and this is what you're working now. Instead of punching in, now you're salary and you're working this many hours. And I think being transparent and open, like, we work hard. That is one of the first things. We work hard. We have fun, but we work hard, and putting those expectations out there, but not just saying them, following through and living them. One of the things that, being newer to my company, one of the things that I've heard from several people is, in the past, marketing hasn't followed through. Big talk, no follow through. We're doing these big initiatives, but they get so excited and they amp people up, and we're going to market this, and this is the way we're doing it. And it just, nothing happens. It just slowly trickles out. So I think that, again, back to those core values, putting out there, living it. You don't just say it, it continues, and you live what that is. We work hard, we work hard, we work hard, we work hard. And that's why.
Yeah, that's a great point, because as I constantly use this analogy of, you grow a culture, and I do a lot of gardening analogies because, that most people can relate to that. You plant something in the ground, and, the first couple of days it looks great, and then it dies. That's the lack of follow through, right? That idea, you planted an idea, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then there's no follow through, and it dies. And, that happens all the time. You're always going to have something in the garden that dies. You're going to have something that, as I was walking through my garden this morning, it's like, wow, look at this tomato plant. The fruit is just hanging. I can't wait. It's going to provide me with a lot of amazing tomatoes. Then I go down about 5 plants, and there's a tomato plant that has a couple of buds and like 2 tomatoes on. It's like, come on, fella, what are you doing? What's going on here? And you're always going to have top producers, and you're always going to have bottom producers. That's a big part of it. But the work itself, you're talking about, it's not easy. Farming, gardening is not easy. It's constant. It's ongoing. You're going to have times of drought, right? The market's going to be tough. The demands are going to be tough. And so you're going to have a drought. And so you got to get out there and you got to do the extra work. You got to work the soil a little bit more to allow the dew to actually have some impact on the soil, to let more oxygen get down into the roots, and allow the soil, when you water, to actually absorb the water quicker to get to those roots, because because it's been so dry. But then you're going to have too much rain, and all of a sudden everything starts to turn color, and the tips of your leaves start to turn brown. You're like, uh-oh, we're in trouble because we had too much water. And you've got pests that come in, you've got rodents that come in, you've got birds that want to come in, you've got weeds that are trying to grow. I mean, it's to your point, it's hard work. It's hard work. Again, going back to your situation with Mason, parenting isn't something you do for a couple hours a day. Parenting is something that you do 24 hours a day, right? And you don't do it for the first 5 years of his life, because at 6, he's not independent. I don't think Mason drove himself to school today. Am I right?
Not.
And, he's not ready to move out and live on his own. He's not going into the kitchen and cooking dinner. He's probably not doing his laundry yet. Maybe he is, but my kids didn't start doing their own laundry until they were 15. But at 15, they had to do their own laundry. And I remember when they went off to college, and my oldest son, Charles, when he went off to college, first conversation we had after we went to college, he's like, Dad, thank you for making me do my laundry. You would not believe the number of kids who like, I don't know how to do this. How do you use this thing? When do I add the soap? And he said they're clueless, but you taught me. And I said, well, Charles, doing laundry is a life skill. It's my job as a parent to teach you life skills. And so, the point is that parenting is constant work. And look, there's no magic number, no magic age. At 18 years old, yes, legally he will be an adult, but parenting isn't over, because today's his 18th birthday. Tomorrow you're going to wake up and you're still going to be parenting your 18-year-old, your 19-year-old, your 20. Now listen, they need less guidance, they need less oversight, but they still need parenting. And that parenting just goes on and on and on, because that's what culture is. Culture isn't something you turn on and turn off. And when I look at the LinkedIn Live, it appears as if every company out there has perfected it. They understand it, they've mastered it, and it's the greatest place in the world to work. And I taught, and my travels all over the country. I was in Boise, Idaho earlier this week. Next week I'll be in Salt Lake City. From there, I'll be going to Austin, Texas to speak at state conferences. And so I get to talk to people all over the country. And I can't tell you, because most of my sessions are leadership and culture sessions, or at least have an element of that. Even if it's on something else, there's always an element of that. And I have people come up to me, or they'll find me in the hallway, or they'll come up to me after my session and talk about their experience, seeking some guidance and some advice. And basically what they're telling me is, I'm being choked by all the weeds in our organization. But if you saw what these companies are posting, there's not a weed to be found. The world is perfect. And I wonder sometimes, is it because they don't really understand what culture is? Is it because they don't understand how critical culture is? Is it because they really believe that and don't? And I think sometimes this is the case. They really believe that and don't really know what the actual experience is out there for the people, in their organization. Or is it they're just, they think they have to tell this perfect story? I don't know.
I'm in a bit of a predicament at my new role at Bayshoreville, and it's interesting, but I'm walking into our reputation online for employee reviews is really poor. It's poor, and we're trying to overcome that, right? And this is the marketing. We're trying to be just like we're talking about. We're trying to be transparent. We're trying to grow. We're trying to build reputation. And one of the things that we were talking about is, I want to ask all of our employees for review. We need to ask all of our employees to rate their experience, but I don't just want to hear the good experience. Like, I don't want to hear, please don't sugarcoat it. I don't want everything is awesome. Please share your honest experience. I'm not going to ask anyone for a good review. I'm going to ask everyone for a review their experience, because we know it's two ways. What companies put out is all positive. What most of the time employees would put out is negative, because they're only prompted to share their experience when they leave maybe a company on not so great terms, whether it's theirs or otherwise. But prompting people to share their experience at different touch points, I think that is like prompting, like when someone's looking for a job, they don't want to necessarily, they're only hearing bad, and they know that they're only hearing bad if they're reading a review, probably. But let's get people to outwardly share those positive experiences. One of the things that I was thinking as we're talking about parenting and how that builds culture, what it makes me think of is trust. And I've said that word a lot. There's a lot of words. Opportunity, trust is another one. I'm newer at my company. One of my main things to do right now is observe and listen and talk to people and let them earn my trust. Right. So I'm not coming in to make change and to, be the bull in the china shop and say, we need to do this. I'm coming to listen. I'm coming to learn. And I want you to trust me. And I'm saying that Brené Brown has this really amazing, I don't know if it's just a podcast or a whole thing, but it talks about what makes up trust. And some of the main things that make up trust are reliability and consistency.
Right.
And so
That's right.
we're talking through that. And that's what we need to do for our teams. We can't just expect people to trust us. We need to listen, and we need to follow through. And so that's in marketing and in culture in general, but in marketing, that culture, we listen and we follow through. And so that goes back to what's happening online. We follow through. We're responding to these employee reviews. We're talking about it. We're not just sugarcoating things, and we're following through, and we understand we have opportunity. So I think that trust is a huge part of culture. Trust us. Trust that we are doing right by you, right by our clients, right by our company, right by our ownership and our investors.
Yeah, listen, that's a great point. I often say trust isn't earned by what I say. Trust is earned by what I do.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what I say. If I do the opposite, then my words are hollow, right? I have to follow through. It's interesting because you're talking about these reviews, and I've seen companies where when they get a good review, the CEO of the company, the president, somebody at the executive level immediately jumps on and praises the person for the good review. And then you'll see a couple of negative reviews and there's no response. It's like, I'm not responding to that. Yeah, that always strikes me as like, no, listen, you got to own it. You got to own it. I mean, you wake up in the morning and your breath smells. You got to own it. Okay, clean it up. Go brush your teeth. Don't ignore it.
We all have opportunity, and I think that asking for feedback is one of the biggest things. Because they may have chosen an avenue, a channel to share that feedback that isn't our favorite because it's outwards, but we should be taking feedback as an opportunity. And so maybe what that shows you is, yes, we need to respond, but maybe we need to share more opportunities to share feedback internally before they get external. So what are we doing to get feedback from our customers, whether that customer be internal or external. What are we
Mm-hmm.
doing to communicate and get constant feedback? Because if we don't want that feedback externally, which again, all feedback is good, let's find some avenues to share that internally so we can be better about sharing exciting moments externally. But yes, responding is number one. When I go to any business online, if I see they haven't responded to negative reviews, I'm not interacting with them. It's not that they got negative reviews, because a negative review isn't bad. A negative review is an opportunity, or it's an authenticity and transparency.
Mm-hmm.
I may see a review that says I got charged a $50 NSF fee at this community and I hate living here because they wouldn't waive it. Great. I appreciate that, because I appreciate the follow through of the management company. I'm not going to bounce my rent check. So that
Yeah,
review,
right.
right? And it's good to
Right.
bad review because it says good things, but someone to come in and respond is what I'm really looking for when I'm reading
Yeah.
reviews. Because what is that follow through? What is the consistency? And the people, right? We're talking culture. Do the people care? Are we taking that feedback and using that? So I think that I listened to a bunch of your previous podcasts this morning before hopping on, and one of the things that I heard is criticism and feedback, and we're talking through this now. One of the things that I always ask my supervisor for when I start a new role or when I get a new supervisor at a current role is I want a meeting every week. 30 minutes. You can move it as much as you want, but I want 30 minutes every week. And that's so I can constantly we always know where we stand. It's for me to give feedback on things. It's for me to get feedback on things, because we're never surprised. And I think that goes for our customers, inwards and outwards. Give more opportunity to share feedback, so nothing's shocking.
Yeah. So what you're saying is I recognize that I need nurturing in order to grow, because that's the whole concept of growing a culture. Well, listen, I think you and I both agree that it is very important for organizations to promote their culture, but it's equally important that they promote it in a way that's it's honest and authentic, and not just trying to trick people. Listen, I've taken jobs in my lifetime where I get in, it's like, what in the world is this? This is not what I thought it was going to be. Then I have to start asking myself, well, can I live with this? And can I influence change? And if I can't influence change, then, that's the wrong place for me. That's the one thing I enjoy more than anything else, is influence and change. And, that excites me, invigorates me. That's what gets me going every day is just, it's why I go to the gym. I don't go to the gym to look the same. I go to the gym to look better. And it may not always be working, but keep going in and keep plugging away at it, right? And try a little harder every time I go. And so, it's all, for me, it's all about change. Listen, you've been a wonderful guest. I've enjoyed this conversation. I have no doubt that our viewers, when they log in and watch this, or if they listen to it, they'll enjoy this conversation. I appreciate your insight. I appreciate your contributions to my podcast. And I just want to thank you so much for joining me. Any parting comments?
I am so thankful for this conversation. It's inspiring to hear from you. You're a great speaker, but you're great to chat with. So this has been absolutely inspiring, and I look forward to collaborating with you in the future.
Well, great. Thank you. Have a good day, and take good care of Mason. He needs it.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, thank you for tuning in. I hope today's conversation left you with a fresh perspective on leadership and culture. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. Want to hear from other industry speakers whose goal is to bring along the next generation of leaders? Then log on to multifamilymedianetwork.com, where you'll meet some of the most innovative voices in the industry.